Okay, they brought it up front, they brought it up there before, they brought it up to nice room.
So I just closed my eyes.
It was right after the competition.
Yeah, it makes everything so much better.
It's 6:30, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. Let's go ahead and get what you have to do to get set up. We have a couple of things we have to take care of. The first is the Pledge of Allegiance. So would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first piece of business we need to take care of is the consent agenda. The items that are listed on that now are minutes 7A, 8A, teaching staff sabbatical leave, 8B, teaching staff maternity leave, 8C, teaching staff maternity leave, 8D, teaching staff leave of absence, 8E, the appointment of election inspectors and workers, 9C, the property tax report card for 2018-19, and 9E, the special election. Would anybody like any of those items removed? Removing the sabbatical.
I shut it off.
If there's no other request, then is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Thank you, Dan. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-4-0 against 2 absent. This is a time for good of the cause. We do set aside a period of time for people to speak if they would like to address the board. I think most of you are, I will qualify it, most of you are probably here for the position discussion. So you're welcome to speak now, or if you would like to wait until we're actually involved in the discussion, I'll leave that up to you.
What's up to you?
Oh, wait.
All right,
Thanks.
Then with that, we'll move to the presentation. This looks very exciting.
This is very exciting. This is our first robotics team, competitive interscholastic team, I guess I would have to say, right? We have had a robotics class. Tammy Casey's been teaching a robotics class for how many years now, Tammy?
I think this is the third year.
Third year teaching a class. But this year, some things came together. We had a nice connection with our school across, our friends across the lake, Northwood, and their robotics team. And that's really all it takes for a group of very enthusiastic teachers to jump in and to take something that's just starting and to turn it into something that looks like it's pretty well finished in just a short time. So I'm going to turn it over to them, but I guess what I would like to ask is, because we have teachers here, but we also have our student robotics team. So I'm going to ask our students, if you wouldn't mind, to introduce yourselves to the school board.
I'm Jasmine, I'm a senior.
I'm Lena O'Brien, I am a freshman.
This is Tim Kelleher, he's a senior. Zach Lawrence is also on our team, he's a senior. Our only junior on the team is Aiden Mellon. And we have a 7th grader, Alex Wright on our team. And then our teachers, who are also our team members.
Thanks, Jasmine. So from here, how do you want to start?
Tim, are we ready to dive in? You need a minute?
Almost,
Okay.
it's connected.
So I'll start with just a quick video on I put together the competition just to kind of see what it was like. We went down to RPI March 14th, 15th, and 16th, I believe, or 15th, 16th, 17th. And we participated in probably 20 different matches, somewhere around there. And so this is just a quick little 3-minute video of some of the highlights of the competition. So hopefully we have sound.
We're going to bring a line dancing team next year. It's a very integral part.
my job, remember, I was gonna be mascot.
So can I just jump in really quick? The first part of the competition was automated control, so you program the robot to do a certain amount of tasks. So you actually receive points for an automated portion, and then after a 30-second time, you just heard the bell right there. Then the controllers step in, and it's operated by the students with a set of controllers.
There's basically two teams. There's a red alliance and a blue alliance, and so our robot was paired with two other teams that were in the competition. And then the blue alliance had 3 different teams, and so you have to work together and find the strengths of the robot to win the game or win that match.
Which was also interesting because other teams, and we learned this quickly, would send people around. If you knew, because you always knew who you were going to be teamed up with, they would send people around to ask you, what are your strengths with your robot? What can you do? So we sent Alex Wright, was our representative, and he was great at it. He went around to every person that was going to be on our team and found out where we should fit in.
So this team actually sent somebody over to our thing and showed, and we played around with the idea of lifting the robot at the end, and they actually played with us and showed us how to do it and came up with strategy same as how to end, because we had trouble getting on their ramp, which I believe you'll see in a second. So they came up with the idea of having the third team pretty much just ram us back up into place where we needed to be.
Which we all knew was going to happen, but the audience thought it was by accident, and it was like in the last few seconds, so the crowd goes crazy.
So this shaker team actually created a lift that, instead of just lifting themselves, you get points if everybody lifts. So they actually made one that lifted the teams that they just happened to be paired with.
So that's us trying to get on the ramp.
So it's gonna.
So we kind of get stuck. So then this person, the plan was for them to pretty much ram us into place, then to go line up.
And this robot weighs about 100 pounds, and the other one was about 120 pounds. So that robot was able. And you can see the blue alliance just fell apart there.
And if you hear the teams roar, some teams brought about 100 people with them to this competition.
Wow. Yeah, the stands were full with just teammates cheering them on.
So we have an actual onboard compressor to run all the pneumatics on this. So that's charging up right now, as you can hear.
Now, can you use the same design next year, or will you totally disassemble this?
So there's a, do you want to go? So there's a kickoff event, January 6th, that we went down to Albany for. We had some bus issues because that was the diesel actually froze. We had to turn around and come back and get the Suburban and drive down. So there's a kickoff event, and the competition is different each year. The video that came up after this on mine showed them picking up recycling bins and garbage cans as well. So each year, this year they had to lift off the ground. So each and raise about what, 6 feet high?
For the
scale.
Yeah, the scale was 7, I think, at the very, if it was tipped against us.
No, six if it was tipped against. The climb was 7.
7. Okay.
It's 5 centered.
5 and then
4.
So each year they do a different type of event.
And they usually base it off of a sporting type event, but this year it was based off of like 80s retro arcade games. So that's why they call it the first power up. And the cubes are supposed to be like those power cubes. You want to try it? Is it ready to rock? Give it to Mr. Size.
Yeah, we're going to get it on the table. We're going to get it on the desk.
We'll let Tim and Jasmine talk to you a little bit about some of the things that you see going on here.
Yeah, so for our wheels, as you can see, the robot doesn't just move forwards and backwards, but we can just translate it sideways. So the wheels on it, if you might be able to see, they've got these little rollers on it, which let the robot do that, which is it was originally used for like forklifts and warehouses to be able to maneuver a bunch, which was we decided to use it for this game this year, thinking it'd be a lot easier to maneuver where exactly we put the cubes on the scales and stuff, and due to other things we didn't get to take advantage of that as much as we might have hoped, but we think it was overall a good decision. Jasmine, you want to say anything about it?
We didn't have much built when we got to the competition, but because we're a rookie team, a lot of the other teams are willing to help us, and that was really nice. Like this, what you see right here, we didn't have this until like the second day of the competition, I'd say. So it was a bit of a struggle at first, but we got everything like put together, and it went on the field, and it did fine. Northwood helped us with a lot of stuff. Like they helped us make our bumpers, our pneumatics, our coating. Like I don't think we would have been able to do it without them. So that was really important.
Because prior to actually coming to the event, we had all of it, for the most part, planned out. The specific wheels that we were going to use, the set of lift motors, which we actually have 3 motors powering the lift, which everyone who we told about that was like, you have 3 powering you? Like, people just thought that was like quite a bit of power. So we're hoping to at some point get, you can see there's a hook on the top there, and part of the challenge was at the end was climbing. So we hope that at some point we're going to be able to get that to work entirely and actually lift the whole robot off the ground using that hook and the motors. And then another part with that set of 3 motors and the gearbox on top of them, part of that is that it has a pneumatic shifter, so using that same compressor and air cylinder, we're able to use a lower gear for that climbing, so we would have more power to lift the 100-pound robot at least a foot off the ground, and then a faster gear to be able to load those cubes into the scale as fast as we could and score more points.
That's really about it.
What is the weight capacity? What could you lift? Do you know?
What could we lift with the gripper?
Right.
We haven't tested the weight limit, but I mean, you really only have to and can only lift 1 milk crate. If you lift 2 of them, it's against the rules, and you get
there's not really
points,
enough.
So.
Yeah, like in the actual game, there's rules against controlling more than 1. We almost got a penalty for that because we were just at that point. It was one of the practice matches, so it didn't count for your actual ranking. But you just got to try your robot out, and at that point we didn't have the actual claw working yet, so we were just kind of herding cubes, like just driving around, pushing them around, which we got pretty good at. But at one point we were pushing 2 at the same time, and they gave us I think it's just a points penalty. We didn't get a yellow or red card or anything.
And a lot of teams, when you get there, their robots are not complete. There's a lot of teams that are, you have 6 weeks to put the thing together, and then you go, whatever, and they get there, and people are helping each other out, which is great. So the camaraderie that was there was unbelievable. Like some of these teams, I think some of these teams just had like 20 people that were their, liaisons to go out and see, who needs help, and they would send people out and they would give us a hand. So, we hope to do that too, be able to bring some people that can go out and help with coding or go out and help with the engineering or build or whatever. So.
We need a lot of teammates for that.
Yes, that's what we're aiming for.
Right. I was saying how with these teams of 100 plus, 113 people, they probably have people who haven't even touched the robot, and they ask us, so what do you do for your robot? I'm like, well,
Everything.
I designed it, I built it, did it,
Well, I will say-
read it, and we all do all of that. So, they're
during,
like, well, I only do the coding. And it's like, okay.
during the project
I
at the
wish.
beginning, Jasmine didn't really know what some of the tools were. And at the end, if you could have seen her changing those bumpers, like grabbing the power tools and just doing it.
It was like a NASCAR pit.
Yeah, because you get switched between whether you're red lines or the blue lines. So it could be, you've got 5 minutes in your pit and you've got to switch
Switch your
those
bumpers
4
out to be
red
blue.
bumpers off to be blue.
And like with only 4
Yeah,
teammates,
4 people, switch all the bumpers, new battery,
We
make
kinda
sure the
have to,
laptop
like,
is still
if
charged.
there's something that needs to be done, you have to help do it. And even if you don't know how to do it, kind of just like watch and learn. And usually for most of this part, it's like pretty symmetrical robot. So like if he'd be working on the left side, I'd watch. I'd probably do it wrong the first few times, and then like I'd do it again. Eventually I get it right. But it's built. That's what matters. And like you do learn a lot along the way. I don't think there's any other class in our school or that our school offers that like I got to have this experience in. So I was really thankful for it. Especially like because I'm gonna be an engineer. Like I'm hoping to be an engineer next 4 years after I graduate. So this is really important for me to get this stepping stone before I go into college not knowing what a flathead
Yeah, and even as the team hopefully continues to grow and we're not as, just everyone's doing everything, there's so many different opportunities with the robot to build skills and learn things that are really applicable. Like, had we had more time and more planning, there would have been CAD drawings of the robot that teams usually make. I know we used CAD software building 3D printed mounts for our air cylinder on the inside.
And spacers for the wheels.
Yeah, and the spacers for the wheels. That was one thing we tried to order, but didn't come in one of the shipments. So
Using
we
that
were,
3D printer that we had.
yeah, we were able to model it and in the right dimensions and have it print out and work perfectly. It fit exactly how we needed it to, and hasn't broken yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Olaf, isn't one of the goals for the competition here?
Do you want to go through a little?
Sure.
Yeah, I think we'll.
Yeah, so we had talked a little bit about opportunities, and I think Karen had copied a few things for you as far as more detail with some of this stuff, but opportunities, I mean, there's $50+ million of scholarships available. I talked to Jasmine a little bit because she's going to RPI, right? And just by being part of this program in high school, there are opportunities for students to access money if they're going into certain engineering fields. I think Jasmine said she would have had to have been part of the program as a
Right.
junior in high school.
Like Aiden, our only junior member, can apply for a scholarship right now. I think it's $12,000 a year, right?
12,500.
12,500 dollars a year for juniors. There's one for seniors, but we're already past the deadlines. We didn't really know about
We were
this
too
one.
busy getting the robot to actually work.
The deadline was in February and the
Yeah.
competition wasn't until March.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So
We were a bit-
for our
trying.
future team, it's a really good opportunity for them, especially like now. College is so expensive. Engineering
And I just
colleges, oh my gosh.
add too, that I just found out that actually 35% of the grants are for anything. You don't have to go into engineering fields. So they're kind of open.
We also were able to sign every student that went with us up for a 3-credit online course through Hudson Valley. So we have those to pass out.
Dr. Catania has those. He's going to hand them out when we're done.
Okay. And then the atmosphere there is completely unique. Like we talked a little bit about already. It's like just this, exciting environment with all these students who are there to watch the robot competition. Teams are there to help each other. If you need something, you go to a table, they announce it, and like 5 people bring you whatever you need. It's just amazing the atmosphere that's there, which kind of also leads into the design cooperation.
It basically was in their RPI's gym, so it was pretty much basket to basket, and about probably a 5,000 capacity seating. And then at the end, they had a court, and that was the pit where everyone had to wear safety glasses if you were in there. But the they're interested in hosting an event here. It's one of the reasons they got us involved. They're hoping to expand the amount of teams that they have and actually bring an event here to Lake Placid. We almost don't have any place that's big enough to actually hold the capacity of people. Like our gym would be, the gym would be perfect and the bleachers would be good, but then we don't even have a pit big enough to hold. So there are some things where they are hoping to bring it to Lake Placid.
The 80 rink?
When there's ice out.
Yeah.
I do have the idea of the 32 or
Oh
the
my
80.
god, ice skating robots?
They did a little bit.
You know, the other cool thing about this place, the pit, was, I mean, when I walked in that first day, I was just blown away. Like in 20 years of educating, I had never seen anything like that or been part of something like that. It was amazing. Like, it was like this facility that was just buzzing. I mean, everybody, and power tools, everybody was working. It was unbelievable. Sparks are flying. They had a full machine shop that you could actually, like that hook that's over there, we had it machined while we were there. Because we didn't have that when we went down. And we're like, we need this hook. So we went and took the measurements off of the actual scale that we'd be climbing on. And we're like, can we machine this? And they brought it to their shop. They machined it out of a piece of aluminum. We actually have two of
With
them.
a water jet, right?
With a water jet cutter, yeah. Which was really cool. So
And I don't think I've seen students so engaged either. Like Tim's father was like, I've been texting you, and Tim's like, sorry, I've been working.
It was 8 to 8 practically every day. I mean, like 12.
Yeah.
The first day we got there wasn't any competitions. It was practice rounds.
Yelling at
And
us
it
over
was
the
just
loudspeaker to
built
go home.
all day long. And we were actually the only rookie team to get a practice match in.
I didn't
Just
know
throwing that out there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the other teams didn't even connect
Yeah.
to the field that night.
It's like a competition, but not a competition, because we're all there to help each other. We've only met one very competitive team, and they're really mean, but that's one out of
There
like,
are plenty of
Who was that?
competitive teams, but only one
Old
that
guy?
was
robot.
not very pleasant. But there are plenty of competitive teams, but still are so willing to help. We had the lead coder for one of those 100-person teams was with us on the first day for probably like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Just
These
helping
guys,
us
like,
and
so
showing us
smart.
things with the coding.
What
And
do they call
it's-
it? Gracious professionalism?
Gracious,
Yeah.
that's one
And
of their big
it's not-
points, yeah.
It's not just people coming over and just like, oh yeah, I can do this for you. They show you really how to do it, and then you can do it on your own the next time easily. And just so much help from all the teams. It's funny, over the loudspeaker the whole time, there's like parts requests, so if you didn't have something, you go up to a table and ask. The whole time, team 7030 needs Velcro. And then five seconds later, someone comes up to your team, you guys need Velcro? Just
Yeah.
magic, just Velcro. All right.
And actually, at the end of this, the whole day, when we went into, or the whole thing, we went into the possibility of getting into the quarterfinals. We were 2 teams out. Actually, we were positioned that we should have been in the quarterfinals. But there was, you know, alliances are made, and there was a couple of Canadian teams that were there. It wasn't at that, and then one Canadian team that actually made it into to be a selecting team for the quarterfinals chose those 2 teams, which were ranked below us, to be with them. So it bumped us 2 spots back. So you are there kind of as a reserve team, because if a robot goes down, you'll be called upon. So we're like, well, it's not going to happen to us. There's like, what, there's 2 ahead of us? And so close. Yeah, there's one ahead of us.
We would have been the next
We
robot.
would have been the next robot. There was
Yeah.
actually a robot that went down, and they called in the team just before us. And we had just finished packing the robot on the bus. Like, we were like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then in that last match, that robot went down, but it was the last match.
Yeah.
So it was like, whew.
Yeah, there were a lot of robots that went just dead on the field, but despite slowly coming to actually somewhat work, our robot never went dead on the field, which is one good thing, because there quite a few did.
They got better and better and better.
Yeah,
as
it only got better, definitely. And we hope that it continues to get better.
So just a quick little background of how we got there. Northwood was huge in getting us interested. And once we were interested and agreed to kind of take this on, we did get quite a few grants. We got the rookie grant for $4,000 and then a Tech Valley kit, which paid for our whole entrance fee and kit of parts. And then we could spend, what, $4,000? Up to $4,000 on extra parts
yeah.
to add to the robot. And then we
And no
had,
one part can be more than $500.
right,
I think it's 700. They increased it to
Oh,
700.
did they?
It used to be 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so there's still limits on what you can, being a small school and competing against schools that have tons and tons and tons of resources, that kind of levels the playing field. But for next year, we know we need to kind of look ahead a little bit, and so we're looking for sponsors. We still have $2,000 left from one of the grants that we applied for that we won't get till next year. And then,
Like where?
no, they saved that, otherwise, we would have used it. But, and then we're applying for grants, so, Mr. Carlson, you applied for the Adirondack.
I'm currently working on a grant through the Adirondack Foundation to get the majority of the entry fee. And one of the neat things about the program is they don't just push the tech piece of it. Leah here was working on a lot of our, you saw the picture at the beginning, but they really try to say, work on a business plan and come up with the idea of raising funds and grants and looking at the larger picture of how to fund it through your community. And so there's a lot of other pieces to that we're hoping to do. So we're looking for the one grant to finish off the entry fee and then work from there on some sort of business plan.
And sponsorships would be nice, because if you went to the competition, you'd see teams that had T-shirts that had loaded on the back, global industries and all this stuff. So, we're looking at like Norsk Titanium could possibly be a nice sponsor for us, and some people along those lines that, we are developing people that will go into their workforce at some point.
Yeah, the sponsorships are definitely huge, and that's something we kind of neglected just because we were so focused on trying to get the robot done. We showed up with barely a robot, and we got
move.
that. Yeah, it actually did not move when we showed up at the competition.
It had wheels,
Right.
but it didn't move.
Right.
So that was what we were focused on for the most part, but with the robot. But the sponsorships they're a huge part, because we did actually run out of money. We were just borrowing parts from whoever was nearby at the competition, whatever we had previously. But while the $4,000 limit does somewhat level the playing field, in some ways it's still difficult for smaller schools because there are so many other parts that don't count. They're not part of the actual robot, but they do. They're things you need: more batteries, chargers, better carts that make things easier, tools. There's so many other things that are immensely beneficial to building this robot, but don't fall under that $4,000. So it is still, it's hard for a small school. We're hoping to get more sponsorships to make that a little bit easier in the next years, however.
Yeah, so just real quick, what we learned, just the importance of STEAM, all of the parts and pieces that go into it, from the arts to, the technology and all the pieces that go along with it, just to put the team together. You can't do it with just your engineers. We were talking about trying to get more students involved, more, we had Leah with us working on some of our art stuff, but we could use a lot more. And then all the teams have like a Twitter account and a Facebook account, and they're sending out updates and posts. And so students that are a little bit more handy with the social media sites would be nice. And then some of the teams would bring a whole group of statisticians to run the numbers and see what teams are good at and what their pros and cons are. And we obviously with 5 students didn't have that, but the ones that did were willing to share. But then we had talked about the sponsors and hopefully getting this into more of a class would be nice.
We're currently a club, and yes, we're kind of thrown together. Like this happened in October. This was kind of like, okay, you have a week to write the grant. there's another NASA grant, and a week after that. So we kind of threw a lot of this together last minute. So we're hoping that if it were to be a class, it would give us more time to actually approach it in a more procedural way.
Every single one of these guys is in something after school, skiing, or they're gone. So to try and say it's going to be 10th period and beyond was just, I mean, there's crickets in the shop most days.
We lost Aiden, the junior, because he was in the play, he was in the musical.
Correct.
And that's just the reality of our small.
So if we had a dedicated time during the day, that would help
Absolutely.
tremendously.
Yeah, a huge help is that it's an entire, you know, that everyone does everything in a small school, sports, robots, musicals, everything. So,
Science Olympiads.
yeah, science Olympiad. There's always one more thing that you can do, and it makes it pretty difficult to be so committed to something with a constrained build time and limited hours. We spent towards the end. We spent a few nights where we were there.
We heard till 10:30
Yeah,
one night.
yeah, we were there pretty late. I know Northwood on like their last day, they were working on it until almost.
They said 11:29, and then they broke it just before they had to back it up.
Oh, no. Some teams are really enthusiastic about it. I don't know if you remember Jimmy Villani, but he's on a robotics team out in California. He's on like a Worlds, really, really good team. They stayed basically until midnight, until bagging time, and they like celebrated and everything. So the teams that do this for a while are really, really into it, like really into it.
And I mean, we are too, just with much more limited resources and time, because there's people who are like this. That's all they do, right? During this robotics season, that's what they're doing with all their spare time. But everyone on the team does everything else. So more people definitely would help.
Which we definitely have people interested. So that's
Yes.
good.
We drove it through the school to gain interest.
Yeah. We'll do it a couple more times. Teachers were slamming their doors. It's a
It's
little loud.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of scary.
They were very strict about the safety rules, wearing glasses and the thing. The field itself was locked down. There were refs. I mean, the kids were behind plexiglass, so they recognized them.
Yeah, they can be, like, there was one point where we broke one of the pulleys on it. I remember the thing shot up and hit his
Yeah.
shoulder. I think I had a bruise for 3 days.
He was okay though. He actually
Yeah.
did it. Robot is not dangerous.
And we kind of cut down on the scary factor by naming it Oprah. So that's it.
And you actually did have to have a safety plan. There was a lot of extra things that wasn't just
Oh, it was last minute.
right, doing willy-nilly. They asked you.
Yes, this was our safety person.
I had no
Safety
idea what I was
Safety
supposed to do.
captain.
And eventually, the safety teams were so small that at the last day, they were supposed to give out awards, but not very many people sent in votes for the awards. So they just said, whoever wants the award the most will get it.
Nice.
And somebody.
Did you run up there?
I was, yeah, a whole bunch of people went up there actually.
There were actually a lot of teams that went around, it's that whole part of that gracious professionalism, that they made stuff for every team. Like we have a battery holder that they made one for every single team there, and they went around and gave it to you. There was another team that came around and gave us a battery spill kit, because apparently, you know, they do fall over and break sometimes. And apparently,
Haven't had it happen yet.
There was like three teams that gave us battery spill kits. Maybe it was just us. But
We spilled water, and they're like, "Why'd you spill?" We're like, "No."
well, yeah, actually, it was somebody spilled a Red Bull over there, and Zach went to wipe it up with a paper towel in his bare hands. We're like, wait, that could be acid.
Well, you know, Brian before was making a comment about sparks flying, and I think he was referring to the robots, but I think the sparks are flying over here, and you can really tell.
Yes.
And I think for that, we really have definitely these three teachers to thank. Tammy Casey, our math teacher, Brian LaValle, our technology and art teacher, and Olaf Carlson, maybe the only Spanish teacher in the robotics. And I guess I have some awards since they were already introduced, but I'm going to hand them out. So these are your 3 credit certificates to for Hudson Valley Community College. and I hope you'll use them. What a terrific bonus, right?
They're good for 5 years, so yeah.
All right.
So Tim
I know
Kelleher,
Tim will take this class probably
There you go.
in about
Congratulations,
4
Tim.
years, 363 days.
and Leah O'Brien, Leah,
Not sure I understand.
He'll take waiting till the last minute.
and Jasmine Zhang. And then this is for Zach Lawrence and Alex Wright. So I'm going to give those. So thank you everybody for coming. What a wonderful thing. Can we keep them here? No, you better bring them back, I
Oprah
guess.
can stay over here if you want.
Oprah, sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.
Order me, would you?
Pretty fast.
The pneumatic.
All right, Leah. It's coming at you. That's what the bumper means. Push her way through.
I think we only fit without
Thanks for coming,
Thank
everybody.
you so much. That was
I probably
fun.
forgot to mention, we did win some awards, which was nice too.
That's wrong.
Yeah,
It was even better when we won the award.
Yeah, it was handed to us upside down.
It was the best rookie team.
What's the other one for?
upside down.
That's what they were both for. This was the highest rookie seeded team and a plaque for the same thing.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tim, where are you going?
It's not him, it's.
No.
Someone let me-
It's all show.
I
mean, it could have. Is that AI?
AI.
Can you just bring the chart?
This is fun. Goodbye.
So we'll pass around, thank you guys. So the next item on the agenda is Teacher Appreciation Proclamation. So the proposed proclamation reads, whereas today's teachers shape our future citizens through their guidance in education, whereas today's teachers encounter students of widely different backgrounds and abilities, and whereas our society expects public education to provide quality education services to all children, no matter what their backgrounds or abilities, and whereas our country's future depends in large measure upon the education of our youth we receive today, and whereas teachers spend countless hours outside their classrooms preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, and performing community services, and whereas our community recognizes that its teachers are providing quality education services to our children, now therefore we, the trustees of the Lake Placid Central School District Board of Education, do hereby honor all Lake Placid Central School teachers and teacher assistants for their dedication to the children of Lake Placid and Wilmington. And haven't we seen some wonderful examples of that tonight? Is there a motion to accept this proclamation?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Joan. Is there a second?
Yes.
Thanks, Dan. Is there discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Oh, I forgot.
I'll
to
just
do
mark
it
it.
electronic.
I'll just mark it.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries 5-4-0 against. Be careful where I'm clicking. Next on the agenda is the discussion for the added position, and just in way of introduction, during the budget process, we had two positions in place. We were hoping to add the librarian, a full-time librarian, as well as an RTI math person at the elementary school. As things came into play and we got our word from the state in terms of what our aid was going to be, we came to the conclusion that we really could this year afford to add one position. So we're at the point where we really need to decide, or set a priority anyway, of which position we would like to add with next year's budget. We need to decide that because as we go out and present to the public, we need to be able to tell them what the money's being spent on. And to go out and say, we're going to add a position, but we really don't know which one, really wouldn't be appropriate. So we had a fairly lengthy discussion at the last meeting. We really couldn't come to a decision. We put it back on the agenda for this meeting, inviting some people to come and just kind of speak and help, help guide us in terms of which direction we should go. So that's where we are now. I guess if you'd like to speak to it, we could allow you to speak, and then I think there are probably questions that we would like to ask.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And thank you for coming too, taking your time to do this. That's great.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Amy Spicer. I teach 10th grade English and 2 bridge courses with North Country Community College. And I'm also the English department chair. And I'm here to talk to you about a full-time library position. Each year in our future planning meetings, the English department asks for a full-time librarian at the middle high school level. The following are the many ways our students and faculty would benefit from having this position filled. The first reason, or the first way that we would benefit, would be the academic and research opportunities that would be available. This new full-time person would help plan and guide teachers across disciplines with ideas and platforms and new trends and research to prepare students for college and career. There would be many more collaboration opportunities. We would have more consistent time daily to meet and to work with this person. This person would also be a database resource specialist. He or she would have working knowledge of all of the databases to which we currently subscribe. This person could help us to know when would be the best time to use each one and to help all teachers to incorporate them into our student research projects. We would also like the new librarian to be an active member of the English department to exchange ideas and better support student needs. The new librarian would also teach digital citizenship classes to support safe, respectful, and factual information gathering in both the middle school and the high school. This person would teach and promote positive student behavior on the internet and share that curriculum with our faculty. The new librarian would specialize in both young adult literature and technology based on each age group. We would also invite the new librarian to push into our classes for mini lessons on multiple topics. Another opportunity that would be available could possibly be independent studies and opportunities for students to pursue projects of their choosing. For example, a student or a group of students is interested in a particular topic. The librarian could assist in guiding research to help that process. For example, creating a student union space at our school. There would also be circulation advantages. We would have an up-to-date collection that reflects all of our students' interests and our school needs. Our library is the hub of our school. The new librarian would get to truly know our students and their reading abilities, which will result in higher reading engagement and a livelier reading culture. The new librarian would also have ownership over the library space. It would be a working space, and this person would have the ability and the desire to make the space one that accommodates the needs of the school community, possibly adding something like a writer's workshop that all of our students could benefit from. The new librarian could also act as a connector to our community, perhaps providing space or support for more author visits, book clubs, and writing and research work. And finally, the new librarian would hopefully provide ownership, leadership, and sustainability of middle school and high school student summer reading programs. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have copies if you want.
Thanks. Thanks, Amy. Anybody else?
Well, real quickly, in terms of adding, in terms of what Amy was talking about, one of the things, and it kind of goes back to the future planning. And Amy mentioned that since we've been here, Teresa and myself have been here, every year for 5 years, that's one thing that has come up. And it hasn't come up just from the English department. It's come up from the social studies department. One of the things even Ann Paulson had talked about for years is a writer center in the library. Another thing that has come up, and it kind of ties into the first robotics and building off of a full-time person in the library, that has not been able to come about. Mm-hmm. But if you're trying to generate interest in terms of FIRST Robotics, one of the things that we've been trying to do the last couple of years is create this makerspace. It's basically a tinkering station that we were going to use the library for, and it stems from as the low tech as arts and crafts to Lego robotics and things like that. So it's a whole gamut of things that we want the library to be. It goes back to, in terms of what Amy was saying, a hub of the school. And I think truly what has come down to is these are ideas that have come up over the last 4 or 5 years, and because we have not had an everyday librarian, these things just kind of get pushed off to the side and say, well, maybe we'll get to it next year, maybe we'll get to it next year. And these are things that if we had that consistent person, these are things that will get done. Having the makerspace created, having the writers' workshop created. It all builds into what I think we're trying to promote here in terms of getting students ready for life after college, whether they're going on to college and majoring in engineering, or they're going into the workforce and they're gaining those valuable skills. And I think that full-time librarian would be another important cog in that process.
So just to follow up a little bit too, I think, very often we say librarian, we think book pusher. And as both Amy and Dana has said, the library in our building, it truly is the hub of our building. And unfortunately, the way that it is structured right now, with a shared part-time librarian, we're not really gaining from it the potential full effects that it has. I know, first of all, I want to say thank you to Leonard and Roger for putting together a great budget. And ideally would be that we have both positions in and that we weren't having this conversation right now, that we could say yes. But that's an ideal world, and unfortunately we're not there right now, and we completely understand that. Our library here, it is the hub of our building, and very often we see kids that are in there, and Patty McConvey, when Ann Paulson isn't here, has done the best job that she possibly can. But we all envision this librarian and this library space to be something completely different than it is right now. It's an opportunity for kids to go in and question. It's an opportunity for kids to be curious by developing the makerspace that Dana spoke about. We've talked about redesigning the back lab so that it becomes a collaborative space for our students to go into. I know that Roger has provided you with lots of the research about highly effective schools, and the one thing that was consistent across the board was a full-time school librarian. Helping achievement across all content areas. There was a recent study that came out of Washington State, 2015 study, that talked about librarians and their impact on student achievement in math, the increasing of math scores as well. So it's not just, we think, reading, but it's more than that. It's about the librarian being a leader in the building, working collaboratively with the teachers in designing curriculum. We would not expect any one of us to go out and run a marathon tomorrow. We'd have to train for it. And research is the exact same thing. When we are teaching those skills for kids for researching, studies again have shown that when we have the collaborative effect of both a librarian working with the teacher, that the effects of those lessons are greater. And really preparing our kids for the collegiate level as well, and making sure that when they go out, they have those skills, because I know that sometimes our kids come back, and we do take our panels seriously. That's one area that we are constantly looking to improve in. We see that librarian as a leader, a true leader providing professional development. We see that librarian not just as a librarian, but a media specialist. This district, before I came on, was, as far as technology is concerned and use of technology in the classroom, was at the forefront in the North Country. And unfortunately, for a variety of different reasons, including the loss of a full-time librarian being one of them, we slipped back in that position as far as the North Country is concerned. We're slowly climbing out. But a library media specialist stays very current on all of the different platforms that are available for teachers to use in their classrooms, such as Wikispaces, which are going to be no longer and will be replaced by a different platform. That professional development, as I said, is another key piece, allowing being a leader and providing professional development for our staff. But I see that full-time librarian being really a lead learner for our teachers and for our students, and working in both of those areas. We also talked about in this district there's a significant need for somebody who has a really strong handle on assistive technology for our students with disabilities, and we would look for that person to take on that role as well in the high school. Not an easy position for you guys to be in, and I'm sorry that you're there. And as I said in the beginning, I wish we could just say both. But we really see the strengths and the gains that for both of our teachers and more importantly for our students. You know, the board goals, students first and foremost, and reducing the achievement gap. A librarian will work very hard towards reducing that achievement gap and putting students first and foremost in our district. So thank you.
And Sonia, could you speak to how you would see the library at the elementary school if we had a full-time librarian?
First of all, I have to agree with Teresa. I'm not comfortable saying us versus them. You know, it's unfortunate, and it's kind of how it's set up here. Is that whole thing? In fact, one of the suggestions I had made, I think last year, was the district I came from had one librarian library media specialist who worked out of high school, middle high school, and just oversaw the program in the elementary school where there was a full-time TA. So that was one of the suggestions I had made here because we do have a full-time TA right now in the library. And that was a possibility that I saw, you know, with keeping within the budget constraints. Last year, I did try with Ann to have a program that was more structured where she did instruction. It wasn't necessarily the matter of not having the time to be there. We worked it in the schedule similar to Tom Dodge. She's there half the time, 3 days out of 6, as is Tom. Tom runs a technology program. She was overseeing the library there. It just wasn't something that occurred. It still remained, even with that time, that dedicated time of basically check-in, check-out of books and reading of stories, which is a great asset. It's great to have in the elementary school or at any school level, and it's something that she's very organized in that matter that she can run that logistics to that. I would love to see the high school have that full-time person, simply because I do see the benefits of that as well. However, if I'm looking at it from what's best for my building, I look at the math RTI position. Simply because there used to be a math RTI and that position was taken away. We have a reading specialist, a reading RTI person who leads our reading RTI program, and we see the benefits of that. We see the kids' scores improve. We see throughout the years with that intensive small group, 4 or 5, we have got 4 people that work with our program, the one person that's the expert over it. We've seen that improvement, and we've talked about the deficit that our district has K-12 in mathematics. So for me, having more push in the mathematics makes sense. It makes sense in following that goal and that pursuit to increase the mathematics.
Was the math RTI, was that Mrs. Swed?
For a while, and then it was Mr. Dodd.
And Burl, do you have Burl?
It was Beryl Schved for a while.
It was.
And then I think Tom Dodd did it for, I don't know, maybe a year?
I think more than that. I think it was 2 or 3 years, yeah. And do you have any evidence? I guess I'm going in a couple directions. One is we've made an effort, or there's been an effort made in the past for inclusion in the elementary school, and we've, you know, as we've in moving that direction, we've intentionally kept classes small at the elementary school to encourage that, to really allow for differentiated learning. And so I guess my question is this a step back? Because here we're pulling students out now from classes that are already small.
Well, RTI is mandated by the state. Students that are that level 3 need to have that RTI support, which is mandated. We do meet the reading. The way we're attempting to do it in the math, up until this year, the first 2 years that I was here, is we just considered part of their math instruction RTI instruction. I don't know what that really meant. I wasn't here for a large part of that to understand it, but what I saw was basically, like you said, maybe some small groups going on within the classroom. This past year, this current year, what we're doing now is we're splitting our reading RTI time so that we're having our level 2s and 3s pulled out for an extra 30 to 45 minutes to have some intensive groups that are focusing on skills that are being taught in the classroom. The teacher would do a whole group instruction, a 60-minute basic average time 60-minute math instruction, and then the kids during RTI times, during 3 out of the 6-day rotations, would come out, and then those RTI staff would work on those skills that were currently being done in the classroom, supporting those skills and any deficits that were. So for example, if you had students that didn't understand fractions, they would take those students, those small groups out, and they would work intensively in different ways to teach the fractions. While the whole group, the remaining ones, the level ones would be what it was called, would work with other skills of reinforcement, even almost an enrichment with the homeroom teacher, the general ed teacher. So it was a reinforcement of skills specific, similar to reading. Our reading RTI person, perhaps your difficulties is phonics, your difficulties is comprehension, your difficulties might be articulation. So in the RTI groups, you're brought out with similar like minds to work on those specific skills rather than trying to teach the whole class and skimming over some of those more intensive skills. So I don't think it takes away from our inclusion at all. It certainly hasn't in reading. We still have fully included classes. In fact, we only have 2 students right now that are not in the general ed class at some point in time for whole group instruction. So
and you see improvements.
We see improvements.
Do students test out of that program?
They flow in and out. They flow in and out. Yes. We do benchmarks 3 times a year, but then throughout the week, the kids will track and do mini assessments on their progress in reading, for example. And they'll track that themselves, so the kids are very aware of what they're doing and how they're doing better. And there is a flow. There are kids every so often, every 10 weeks, we'll go through, and our RTI team will meet with the general ed teachers class by class and discuss, this is how they tested this time, this is where they're at. Let's form new groups. Who do we need to bring out? Who do we need to take in? And so that does adjust throughout the year.
And I remember the Mrs. Fed was very active when my oldest 2 were in elementary school, and the kids would be coming and going in and out of the classrooms for multiple reasons. It wasn't ever, it never seemed to be that kids were flagged or that it was anything known. They seemed to go out, and it seemed like they were pulled for maybe more advanced learning in addition to kids that needed extra help, and then things would switch out, so it was seen as a positive thing, not a stigma.
Yeah,
so.
And a reading
positive. I guess where I was going, there are studies that show that tracking doesn't really work the way it's supposed to. That once a student becomes tracked in whatever track, especially the lower tracks, they tend to stay in those lower tracks for their whole career, and so the gap, and the kids that are not the upper tracks continue to achieve, and so the gap actually gets wider.
Right.
And that's what my concern is that this could be another form of tracking.
No, it's a flow. The kids flow in and out, and the students that need RTI in reading are different than the kids that need RTI in math. Just like we all have our certain skills. Some students may be really good at reading, but they're not as well in math. And so those kids too, because of that flow, because of that flexibility, go in and out of the program as things go through. We might, in the beginning of the year, for example, they work on basic computations. Some of the kids just don't know the math facts. So they may come to RTI Math to practice math facts. And because we don't have anybody directing us and we're kind of making it up as we're going along, for example, there's games that the kids play to help learn the math facts for this one particular example. And then the next unit, as they go through, they might be talking about geometry. Well, they don't need to be experts at math facts to understand geometry, so some of those kids would not need that intervention, where other kids can't understand that concept of geometry, so they might be ones that are pulled out for that unit and that section. So it flows throughout the year. It's students coming in and out of the whole program. That's the way it is for reading. It's what we're doing now for math, but just without somebody that's really guiding us. We're kind of flying by to try to figure it out.
And if I can go back to the librarian position, do you see that if you have a full-time librarian at the elementary school, do you see, is it going to be more than just classes coming in and having a story read to them and checking out books? But do you envision it being more than that, or is that what you would get?
That's a difficult question to answer. We tried it last year, and that's what it was, for whatever reason. We do have a maker space in there. I feel like it's being underutilized right now. We do have the computers. We do have a lot of things. A lot of it is more teacher-driven. Teacher trying to gain access to those materials and that supply. What we're seeing primarily is that checking in and out of books and reading the stories and that.
And I guess
I think it's really difficult having a part-time librarian down there. I have the distinct pleasure of being the person who does observations for the librarian, and was down to observe a lesson yesterday that Anne taught. And it was, it was engaging. It was poetry. It was using voice, and the kids were actively involved and had poetry that they were reading. I think it's really difficult, regardless of which building, whether it's the elementary school or the middle high school, for anybody to really get into any depth of really designing a very strong program because of the time.
Right.
Anne is down and scheduled for 3 full days in a row down at the elementary school, and she's also supposed to be teaching digital citizenship up here Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So when she can't make the digital citizenship, easy for me to say tonight, up here, Patty McConby or myself has been stepping in to teach that class rather than somebody who's certified in that particular area. So I think it becomes really challenging, which is why I think it's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah.
To say, because what could the program look like versus what unfortunately it is right now.
Right. And I think who is in that position also helps with what it looks like as well too. So.
And is it possible to do a full-time in the one building and then the TA covering the elementary? Is that a possibility as far as, could it be done, or are there rules that don't allow us to do it?
There's no rules that would prevent us from doing it.
Okay.
Anything can be done.
Okay.
Having been the principal of an elementary school that lost my librarian, and that's exactly how it was set up, it was detrimental to the library program.
At the elementary school?
At the elementary school. Yeah.
Was there a reading RTI person in place and a computer person in place at that school?
We had an RTI person let me step back a second. RTI was provided by classroom teachers. There wasn't a specific RTI person. So for both math and for ELA, it was the way that the schedule was designed so that the RTI was provided directly in the classroom from the classroom teacher. So really RTI is identifying skill deficits and then giving specific instruction to those students. It's not taking the students out of the gen ed classroom, so they do need to receive the regular classroom instruction. And then this is, I like to say, get a little extra loving to help close their gap. The tier 2 kids are the ones that actually are, could have a little bit more flexibility as far as the movement is concerned. Those are the ones who need just a little bit of in and a little bit of out. The tier 3 kids are usually those kids that end up being serviced by a special ed person and or certified literacy specialist. The law says that as far as reading is concerned, they can do that. There's no law out there that I'm aware of as far as providing math services that it has to be a specific math person. There's no special certification for that RTI person. But I scheduled it so that it was done within the classroom, and it was structured so that there was a whole group lesson, and then kids would break down into smaller group, smaller center times, and then kids would rotate through. So my low-end kids, let's say I was the classroom teacher, I'd see them Monday through Friday every day. My level 2 kids I'd see on Thursdays or Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and then my high flyers I'd see twice a week. But I'd also have a TA that was in there that would actually rotate through to provide some extra support as well. So it was just the way that I handled it. But we had cut the librarian too,
Yeah,
so it was a TA in the library.
I just was, the only reason I was asking that is because of the situation at the elementary now where there is a full-time computer person, there is a full-time
Half-time, because
RTI.
Mr. Dodd also does the district technology piece, and so that's where, and I think Simon just mentioned that. Basically, he's teaching 3 days in the elementary school, and the other 3 days he's serving the whole district in different ways at both schools and as well as here in the district office.
Yeah, I just, from hearing from the principal, there's not the need at the elementary school for the technology part where there is that need at the middle high school. It didn't seem, that was the only reason I was asking that, and with the full-time RTI reading, that's the only reason I was asking, as far as the needs of the person.
Yeah, Tom provides our technology support, and he does it 3 days
So-
a week. We have a 6-day rotation where he's 3 days, so the students get technology once every 6 days, and they get library once every 6 days.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Any comments? So we really are at a position where we need to make a decision. It would be nice if we could reach a consensus, but if not.
Yeah, is that, so again, we just picked the one position, but it seems like potentially we could cover both needs if there's a full-time at the middle high school in the library and then the math RTI at the elementary. Is that an option, or is that just not something that would be an option this year and that you would want to do? So that, that's...
I appreciate that, I know that you're bringing it up, you brought it up last week, and I know that Mrs. Franklin brought it up today. It's just not something I'm recommending. Could it be done? Sure. But I don't see it as a step forward.
How would it be different if you didn't have a librarian going down to the library 3 days a week? What impact would that have on the students?
Our TA would be doing the check-ins and check-outs and the reading of the books and that. And then you'd still have a librarian that would oversee the program and oversee the book orderings and that, I'm sure. But it would be Jane Ladisic, our TA, that is currently there. That would be, just like she does the other 3 days of the week, that would continue throughout, only she would have that ability to read to the kids. We did have last year, we tried when I tried to have more of a focused library program, we had check-in and check-out separate, which were done on the days that Anne wasn't there. So it was Jane that was doing the book check-in and check-out. And then it was about a half hour, and then she would check in, check out, and read the stories to the students. So.
And is it, I guess the question is it possible for one person to do the administrative oversight that's needed at both libraries and do all of the other things that are listed here that we're really hopeful will happen in the library?
I don't think so. We could certainly say that. I think we're doing that right now. I think we're saying that right now, that we get one person who could administer both libraries and provide, you know, necessary service at both. And, you know, again, the reason why we've had this in, trying to put it in the budget for the last couple of years is because we don't think we're getting that.
I think from our perspective, and Dr. Kanan was saying, is I think with one person, one librarian for the district, there's this, they're bogging down on the administrative aspect of it and what is lost, whether they're at the elementary school for 3 days and here for 3 days, or in one building every day and having a TA servicing the other building, is the things that we talked about in terms of the student outreach and the building and the working and collaborating with the other teachers and building those skills and those tools that we all talked about. It doesn't matter where the person is physically, their focus is going to be on the ordering of the books and on maintaining, not on the student enrichment and engaging with the teachers as well as directly with the students.
And please understand, I do believe middle high school needs a full-time librarian. I just believe I need a math RTI person.
That's exactly it.
You both have legitimate claims to that too, so it's not that.
I mean, we will continue to. I mean, again, depending on how we go, you know, we'll continue to work on the other piece. We will, and we've done that before with other positions, and you know, we'll see what we can cobble together. But there's no guarantees with that. So you know, that's what brings us here.
And I do think that as we go out and talk about the budget to the community, that we need to be able to say our priority is to add exposition, whether that's a librarian or the RTI math person. Not that, and once we set that priority, as Roger said, it's not like we're going to forget about the other. We are going to continue to look and see if there's ways that we can work and find enough money for the other position.
After tonight, we'll have, what, 3 positions we're searching for math for?
Is that all? Just 3?
I was trying to come up with 4.
Secondary math teacher. With the consent agenda, you just approved, I believe what we're going to have is two long-term substitutes, one for the whole year and one for part of the year. And then there's the 5th grade position. Now the 5th grade position is an elementary position, scarily the 6th retirement. But that person will also specialize in math because we've departmentalized 5th grade. So it feels like more than, did you say 2? You said 3.
3.
It feels like more than 3 to me.
But I guess my point to that is math teachers are hard to come by. Would it be a good decision to go with the librarian, replace our math teachers that we need to, and then in January, when I think 2 positions are exhausted, they're short-term, perhaps, or just one.
One.
Finding that diamond in the rough that could do this position and look at the budget at that point and say, you know, can we carry this person from a temporary position on to full-time? But I would hate to approve a position and then not be able to fill it, is the other perspective.
We've had that happen before.
Right. That doesn't guarantee there's a whole lot of librarians out there either. But
These are both positions that are tough to fill, frankly. Math positions, especially elementary level math positions, because the traditional elementary school teacher is usually somebody who comes in as somebody who loves reading, and so there's fewer that are strong in math. So it is hard to find the math concentration. Although we've had some good candidates, I think, for this position. So maybe I'm over exaggerating that. But librarians are very hard to come by now too. So it's true for both these positions.
Can a person who's certified
is it K through 6? Is that the certification for teachers K through 6?
1
through
It's
6
1
or
through
birth
6,
through
right? Yeah.
1 through 6?
Yeah.
Would they be able to be a long-term sub for a middle school? They can, in the focus of math, or are we, the substitute for the 2 math will then be the next
Well,
certification level?
so if we're hiring somebody at grade 7, for example, in math, then the first choice is somebody who's secondary certified.
Okay.
After that, somebody who's certified in another area. So if we don't have a qualified candidate with math certification, then we can look to somebody who's certified in another area and has a strength there. We've done that before, and we're within the guidelines to be able to do that.
Okay.
But somebody with a 1 through 6 certification that's with an emphasis on the math, if we follow Rick's suggestion, no, never mind, that's a full-time position, it would be the seventh grade teacher could become the RTI person. If that person, would that be allowed? Or would they need?
I think we'd have to look deeper into that question. My sense was, what we just advertised for the 5th grade would probably be the first option, which was somebody who's elementary certified and math concentration. I'd have to look a little deeper to see if the regs allow us to go with math that is, yeah.
So is this something that we need to decide because it's going to be written down in the budget booklet, or is it something that we need to have decided by the first hearing?
I don't know that it would be in the.
It's not going to be
budget,
specifically in the budget booklet, no.
No.
Would be more for the first hearing.
Yeah, which is our next meeting. You're thinking we should delay the decision? Is
I
that
don't
what
think
you're
I can make,
suggesting?
I can make a decision, but I'm not sure. I would like to, I think maybe processing it longer might be better, but that's just where I'm at.
Okay. So about the others?
I think I'm kind of ready to make a decision.
I think I am too.
Let me just inject a little of practicality here. So this is the board meeting. The next board meeting is in 2 weeks, right? May 1st?
May 1st.
So our hope is that we're able to advertise for this position. It takes a while to go from advertising for a position to the search and the interviews and all that. So if we can, and we plan on putting out an ad later this week because we already know we have positions to fill. This will be the second round of vacancies. If we wait until May, then we'll basically be waiting on that last position, and it'll just take a little bit longer. What would be helpful would be the sooner, and that's why we're trying to get on things sooner than not. We can't always do that, and I understand that, but the sooner the better for that practical sake of getting out the advertisements and getting in candidates and that kind of thing.
So it sounds like most of us anyway, I didn't hear from you, Dan.
I'm sitting on the fence, but I think I'm leaning one way, so.
So I guess the question is which way?
Yeah, that's mine. So.
I would say librarian.
I would too.
I'm hard pressed to go against recommendations of the superintendent, so.
And I was librarian.
Then I think that would be the decision at this point, that the priority would be the librarian, with the hope that we'll be able to, at some point before the beginning of the year, find a way to find funds for the other, and then definitely make that a priority for the next budget.
Well, I appreciate you being willing to do that. I know it's hard. It's reiterate, and I know that we reiterated it before, which is we want both these positions. This is not, we did not want this to be an either or. It's just when you get into this spot and to move forward, you got to do something. So appreciate you being willing to take that step.
Thank you. And thank you all for your comments and
Thank you. I know that it's not an easy decision, and it's, you know, we want Sonia to have an RTI math person as well down at the elementary school, and, you know, Dana and I are just over here whispering, saying that, you know, we can hopefully, with the, you know, getting all of our heads together, come up with some kind of an idea.
Can we get this attached to the board docs?
I was going to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. You're welcome to stay, but we'll move on with our rest of
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you. No, that's fine. Thanks.
Roger, Karen. I just want to.
Can I just take 1 minute? You're looking at me.
Spell Jasmine's name.
Jasmine, Jasmine.
And Leah's?
Okay. Yeah.
Is it Lea?
Lea.
H-A?
Lea.
Lea, is
Yeah.
it?
We'll move on to the reports for the board, and the first one is the budget status report. Leonard?
Okay. This is the budget status report for the month ending March 31st. On the revenue side is $15,154,593. Other tax items, $18,168. Charges for services were $27,242. The use of money is $8,091. Miscellaneous revenues are $48,520. Our state aid was $2,346,988 for a total of $17,603,602. Looking at last year compared to this year, we're just a little bit ahead of last year at this time, so not a huge difference, but I like seeing that revenue coming in early. Any questions on the revenue side? All right, the expense side. Salaries of $5,506,695. The benefits, $4,206,984. Contractual and BOCES expenses were $1,827,767. Materials and supply expenses of $320,148. Equipment, $60,094. Debt service, $171,282. And textbooks were $19,021. For total expense through March was $12,111,991. And almost identical to last year at this time on the overall expense side.
Any questions?
Any questions at all? Revenue or expenses? Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
We have the treasurer's report. Are there any questions on the treasurer's report? And we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so I have a few things to share with you. First is that last week after our board meeting was on Tuesday. On Wednesday was the BOCES annual meeting. This was the 70th annual BOCES meeting. It was held in Malone. So Rick Preston and I attended to represent the school district. We'll say you represented both the BOCES board and the school district, Rick. I wanted you to know that they highlighted a couple of programs while they were there. One was their PTAC High School, which is unique and it does not exist down here. It only exists up there, called the Northern Borders Academy. And this is a program in which students are schooled separately and they earn a high school diploma and an associate's degree. So it was kind of interesting to hear from their students. They also showcased their building trades class, which has been building a tiny house, which you may be familiar with if you want to see a great example of that down here at the BOCES Center in Saranac Lake. They're also building a tiny house, and it's the third or fourth year of doing it. So we were able to see and compare how they were doing in Malone with how they're doing in Saranac Lake. You of course know that Rick represents us here, but he also represents the BOCES board. And I think, is it tonight that we're voting on that election? So it was just nice to be there and to see what our friends at BOCES were doing. The annual meeting, in addition to being an opportunity for them to showcase, was also a chance for them to share with us the budget. And I know you're also voting on that tonight. So anyway, it's nice to be there. So that's the first thing. Second thing I wanted to mention was last week I also had a chance to attend a foreign language conference. Olaf Carlson was here earlier. He actually helped organize this conference. This was a conference that was put together by the Adirondack Foundation. All of our foreign language teachers were able to participate. It was over at the Crown Plaza. This is part of what's called the Adirondack Foreign Language Enhancement Fund. And you've seen this with some grants that have come through. This is one of the philanthropic funds of the Adirondack Foundation. Since 2013, this fund has provided $175,000 towards teachers in the region. So they support foreign language teachers in the region. Many of those teachers were at this conference. It was a wonderful opportunity to hear how different schools had come up with innovative ideas and used the money they were able to get from this special fund to enhance foreign language instruction. It was great for all of our teachers to be there, not just to hear that, but also to share that with others. It was also great to have our foreign language program there. Boy, do we stand out. We stand out for the kind of support for world languages and culture that we offer here. Caroline Hambley's there representing elementary school instruction. There are very few people who are working with elementary school kids in this group. Caroline is one of them. Anyway, it was a great chance to hear about some of these grants, grants for iPads, grants for travel, and then to hear all the different ways, grants for immersion programs that this was done. So anyway, thanks to the Adirondack Foundation and to that special fund for all they do for us, but also all they do for world language instruction throughout this region. So that was number two, and then there was late-breaking news tonight on my way over here. Got an email from Connie Hammaker, our high school counselor, and so I wouldn't want to let that go because she sent me a copy of a newspaper article that was posted today on the Syracuse Post-Standard website. They tend to report a lot of statewide news when it comes to education, and it was an article that listed the top 50 upstate high schools based on SAT scores. I've seen these articles before, and I've never seen us in them. But this time, Lake Placid High School was among the top 50. There's over 400 upstate New York high schools, so it's not a small group that we're talking about. We came in at number 32. And of course, this is all numbers ranking, and it's all based on last year's graduating class. And you might remember that I shared with you last year's graduating class graduation information, and part of that was to highlight how strong a class it had been with their SAT and ACT scores. So in some ways that's not a surprise, but it was nice to see us up there. We're right there just behind Saratoga High School, Fairport High School, and Williamsville High School, all very well-known, large high schools throughout the state. Anyway, congratulations to, I guess, our graduating class and our whole school program. And thanks to Connie for sharing, not just sharing that with me, but also being a part of that big effort. And then I just want to mention some of the upcoming school events and activities, because there's a lot of things going on. One of those things is the weather, and that has been terrible for our athletic program. So our athletic program is not one of the things that's going on, at least it's not moving full speed. But there are plenty of other things right now to pay attention to. One of them is testing. You might remember I mentioned last week that we were just jumping into testing. We had our ELA testing last week over 2 days. You may have heard there were some glitches statewide in the testing program, but those were for the computer-based tests, which is what the state says they want to move everybody towards. We have not moved toward it yet, and probably that's a good thing this year, because many schools that do computer-based testing were locked out on the day they were planning to test, and so it really did throw a wrench in the works. But for us, it was a normal testing situation. Math exams, of course, will be coming in early May. Other things that are going on, Wednesday night there's a parent education presentation. This is a reschedule from February. It's called 10 Steps to Minimizing Challenging Behavior in Young Children. And it's sponsored by the Special Education Parent Network. And a part of this is they serve a meal and they also provide childcare so that families can take care of those issues when they attend this event. There's also high school planning night coming up this week, and that's where our rising 9th graders, our current 8th graders, and their families plan for high school. You might remember that our 8th graders all develop 4-year plans with their counselors, and that way they can use their plans for what they want to do out after high school, career plans, and college plans, military plans, and then plan their high school program accordingly. And so it's a really nice night. It's one of the nicer nights for our middle schoolers and their families as they start to put their heads together and really think about what those 4 years of high school are going to look like. So that's Thursday at 6:30. There's also music events going on this week. On Wednesday, we're hosting, actually it's Wednesday and Friday, depending on which school, we're hosting the Turtle Island String Quartet. This is a 2-time Grammy Award-winning group. I'm not really knowledgeable about the Grammys, so I'm not sure what category that's in, but that sounds pretty nice, pretty impressive to me. They're going to perform at the middle high school stage during the day, presenting a demonstration called Finding Your Groove. And all the classes will be invited to attend that. This is all provided courtesy of the Lake Placid Center for the Arts, free of charge. So what a nice thing for them to do for us. Saturday there's the dodgeball tournament, which is the fundraiser for the cross-country team. And then next Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be showing a film. Maybe you've heard of this. It's a film called Angst, Teenage Anxiety. It's going to be shown to students during the day, and then to interested parents and community members on Tuesday evening at 7:30 p.m. It's in coordination with the CYC, so Connecting Youth and Community. We'll have our middle schoolers attending, we'll have our high schoolers attending. Keene is going to be participating. This film, Angst, features candid interviews with kids and young adults who suffer or have suffered from anxiety and what they've learned about it. It includes discussions with mental health professionals about the causes of anxiety and its sociological effects, as well as the health resources and tools that kids can access. And then next Thursday, we have a poetry event, and that's going to be involving the sophomore class. And then, maybe the weather will turn and we'll be able to talk about also adding in there some outdoor athletic events, so, weather permitting, of course. And that's everything for me. Any questions or comments on any of that?
The opt-out, were there opt-outs?
We still had opt-outs, but it was a smaller number. I haven't calculated the percentage yet.
Was the English, did they shorten it?
So it was a little bit shorter. We had 3 days, now it's 2 days. There's a little bit more on each of those days, not a significant amount. So overall, yes, it was shorter.
The test days themselves weren't shorter.
The what?
The test days themselves, like the length of the test.
No, so each day, the tests went to untimed tests.
Maybe that's what
last year, I think it was for the first time.
Then.
And so we don't have a specific timing, but in most cases, our kids were finishing in about the same amount of time. I've been just a little bit more. I know that the tests as written were 1 fewer day and just a little bit longer each day. So.
Yeah. It was perceived as shorter. If they took a day off and...
From the kids' perspective you're talking about, yes.
Yeah, so I was curious if
right.
it actually was. Maybe taking the time factor
that
out.
pressure. Yeah.
I think that was a really good idea.
Yeah, that was one of the time factor, the untimed nature of it. That was one of the changes.
Yeah.
Again, trying to reduce the anxiety. Here we go with the film. But also going from 3 days to 2 was trying to keep it from being so disruptive into the school days. So.
Yeah. Great.
The poetry event Thursday, is that an evening event or is that during the school day?
It's at the LPCA, and I believe it's during the day.
Okay.
Is that handy? Yeah, I think that's right.
It's just 9 AM on the calendar.
9 AM.
The film is 7:30 in the.
The evening, yes, the evening showing, and then we're showing it during the day also.
The evening show is at the LPCA though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't write it down, I think I'm right, I think that's right,
Yeah,
yes.
I got that earlier. Any other questions? Then we'll move to info for the board. The one thing that's there is the extracurricular reconciliation. Are there any questions on that? Then let's move on to action items.
Linking goals.
Oh, linking goals, thank you. We have a lot to link, I think.
Robotics.
Robotics, and education. Library, our RTI math discussion, it goes in education, students first and foremost, finance. The security camera resolution coming up, I think, is one also that could go under finance. It could also go under students first and foremost. Any others? All right, now we'll go to the action items. Thank you for that. And I think the first action item we need to go to is the teaching staff sabbatical leave.
8A.
What?
8A.
8A, yes. The recommended proposal reads, upon recommendation of the superintendent, approve the sabbatical leave of absence of Cassandra Mariano, 8th grade math teacher, commencing September 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, in accordance with Article 19F of the Lake Placid Education Association's contract dated July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve this leave?
Yes.
Thank you, Patty. Is there a second? Thanks, Rick. Is there discussion or questions?
I think my thing, and I don't know, and it might be in the language, and I wasn't able to look at that under the contract, but it seems, I'm fully supportive of it, and it seems very positive, and it seems like the plan is gonna bring back a lot of positive to the students, and, you know, that she's a terrific teacher and leader in the school, so I'm all positive. But is it part of it that when she comes back, there'll be a presentation like we got, you know, where there'll be feedback to the board and or to the school or the other teachers as far as, is that part of the sabbatical that when you come back, you present?
Of course, we've done that, and we remember that, which was one of the nicer presentations. I do believe it's in the contract that, you know, to share with the board. I don't believe there's anything that's specific which says that you must share with your colleagues. You know, and I haven't really discussed that with Cassandra Mariano. By the way, Cassandra Mariano was here tonight, so if you didn't see her, she was in the back corner. But I know her very well, and she'll share it with her colleagues for sure. There's no requirement to do that.
Okay. That was the only reason I wanted to separate it out, was to because it's not something that we do often as far as having it go through. I had those questions, so.
There was maybe you caught it already, but there was a typo in the actual agreement that she signs. It said he in one place, and it should be she. At the second to last line, I think I saw it. He shall,
right here.
It should be she. I should point that out.
It's a cut and paste.
Yes, I figured. There are no further questions, then let's please vote. There. Motion carries 5-4-0 against. Then we move down to other action items. 9A, Board of Cooperative Educational Services BOCES administrative budget.
The proposal is, be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby adopts the administrative budget for the Board of Cooperative Educational Services of the sole supervisory district of Franklin, Essex, and Hamilton counties in the amount of $2,374,439 for the 2018-2019 school year. Is there a motion to approve this proposal?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Second.
I was reading something.
Are there is there discussion or are there questions?
Anything we should know, Rick?
No.
I guess one question was there any discussion about being able to consolidate positions to reduce administrative costs? I mean, was that a consideration?
Not at the Wednesday night or at a board level, no.
What's the increase?
Did
that get calculated?
4.4 for us.
For us, yeah.
Total is 6.59%, but that's total. For us, it's 4.44.
What was the total? It increased at 8%?
8.5%, 8.57%, yeah.
They're
Their budget from last year,
They're talking administrative.
The overall,
no,
administrative.
no, that's overall. That's
Yeah,
yeah,
the
no,
administrative budget was
Is
Oh.
6.59%.
Yeah.
6.59%.
Most of that is the retirement piece that falls into the administrative budget, which
Did they add a position, an administrative position?
not over, no. The finance
But they
person.
Didn't
The
they
finance person.
move stuff out though? A lot, that might have been what you were doing with.
No, they actually moved in the retirement account. They had to increase the percentage the state regulates that it go in the administrative budget, the retirement. And I believe it's now at just under 50%.
Well, if you look on their administrative side there, the amounts, employee benefits, and then the post and retirement benefits are the two. That's 150,000 right there. Those two. 130,000.
And that was increased over
From last year.
from last year by how much?
150,000.
150,000.
130,000. I'm sorry.
It's one of those items that just, like ours,
The state
just
requires.
continues to climb. But to my knowledge, they haven't added, the only positions that they've added are those that are contract positions. Office, business office, and in fact, there were 3 position reductions 2 meetings ago.
In administration?
No,
Yeah.
no, in teaching.
Right.
And I guess that's what's bothersome to me, is that, you know, here we all are, you know, with the tax cap, debating whether or not to add a math RTI position or a full-time librarian position, you know, positions that.
It's staying within 2%, right?
Right, within 2 point, just under 3%.
Just under, but still,
Yeah.
we're working within a 3%, and they have an 8%, and then the 6 for administrative. That's
And our administrative budget went up how much? Less than 2.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah,
I mean our
Yes,
school.
ours.
Yeah, ours, I don't have that in my head right
It
now.
wasn't that much.
I don't know exactly what that was.
You don't have it memorized?
I don't have that one memorized.
It wasn't 6%.
No, it definitely wasn't
And it
6%.
wasn't 3% either.
It's in there.
I think it's like 2
But the
something,
numbers are-
Then I'm
2.38
ready
maybe.
to vote. The rest of you ready to vote?
I'm ready.
There are 3 yeses and 2 nos, so the motion carries.
I I will say that the Lake Placid board, in their objections in the past, I believe, have found a home in the BOCES negotiations with their budgets, but if you look it over and you listen to it, it's just so hard to regulate. And from an administrative standpoint, there's so much to administrate with the two buildings and so many programs that I don't know how you could do it with less people.
It seems like, to me, there's a culture there that has never had to really look at how to streamline and how to condense, and that they're still resistant to that.
And it's
That's
just
frustrating.
so, it is frustrating within the public school and to have to work with all these mandated parameters, that they're not optional, us paying into it is not optional. And that they don't have to play by the same rules, or even if they felt that the administrative was more important for BOCES, which is hard to wrap my head around, that it would be more important for that group than it would be for any functioning business. But even if that was true, then if there was some sort of parameters on that, it can, you don't have to stay within a 3%, but I don't know, just not having any parameters at all just doesn't seem fair.
I'd like to see them take an average of what all of the people, all of the schools, districts' tax cap is, and that's their tax cap. Some are higher than ours, some are lower than ours.
Or even propose it and then be able to show why they need them more, but even similar to what we would have to do. We said, absolutely, we cannot function within our tax cap, but would need to present as to why, just some of them.
You're all welcome to the annual meeting, which is next Wednesday.
God bless you. It is not a vote against you.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
so
well, you could ask some very good questions.
For doing that.
And get some answers.
Well, and since you've
We've
brought
gotten
that up,
much better information.
I will add in that, a year ago or so, maybe it was a year and a half ago, they did offer a series of advisory meetings, and different people attended here. And they are planning to bring those back in the fall. So I thought they were helpful.
I do too.
And I think it was a two-way street as far as the conversation went. And these kinds of points were raised, and I think had an impact. So, when that comes up, we should make sure that we've got some representation of it.
I'm gonna go, but I'm bringing John.
Can you give me some heads up? I'm sick that day.
Let's move on to the election of the board. So the proposed resolution reads, be it resolved, the Board of Education casts its votes in the annual election of members of the Franklin Essex Hamilton Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the personal persons indicated on the attached ballot. And our own Rick Preston is one of those on the ballot.
Feel free to vote appropriately.
Along with Rick Retrosi from Saranac Lake
and
Dennis Egan, right?
Yes.
Dennis has been on there for a long, long time. Rick has been on it. This is second or third year?
Second
year.
Yeah,
And then,
third year.
so is
Mary, I
there,
remember a few years ago where this came up and everybody looked at each other and said, we don't know who any of these people are.
right.
Yes.
This is one of those few
Right.
times where you know who everybody is.
everybody is, yes.
That's nice.
Yes, it is.
So am I doing an X next to every name?
Is there, well, we have to have a
Oh,
motion
sorry.
first. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Yes.
Thank you, Patty. Is there a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Joan. And by voting on this, we would be voting for all three candidates. So, are we going to vote electronically?
Yep.
Mine hasn't come, oh, here it is, okay. Please vote.
Can I vote for two?
Yes.
One. Okay, motion carries 5-4-0 against. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. Let's see, next is, we did that.
That's
The
security
security
camera.
camera resolution.
You don't want to talk about the property tax report card?
No, we already passed it.
Yeah.
We already approved it.
Okay, good.
Would you like to talk about that?
No, I just thought there'd be questions about it because it's so much different than, I mean, this is a new report this year and there's so much more information on it and they had to cram it all into one page. So it's kind of convoluted. But
So the proposed resolution reads, whereas the Lake Placid Central School has a planned proposal to upgrade the security surveillance at both school buildings in the amount of $99,615.05. Existing funds in the amount of $100,000 will be transferred from the 2017-2018 general fund to the capital fund by June 1st, 2018. The Board of Education desires to approve the proposed security surveillance upgrade and utilize the funds transferred to the capital fund. Be it resolved, the Board of Education approves a transfer of $100,000 from the general fund to the capital fund and issue a purchase order to the successful bidder to begin the project by a tentative date of June 18th, 2018. Be it further resolved, the Board of Education further directs the business manager to make said transfer for the recognized amount of $100,000 from the general fund to the capital fund by June 1st, 2018. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Joan. Is there a second?
yes.
Thank you, Dan. Leonard, could you maybe
Sure.
explain where the money's coming from?
Sure, we had a meeting last week, and what I did is I pulled all the maintenance budgets that we have at the elementary school and at the middle high school, and those budgets combined, there's like 6 or 7 individual line items. In those budgets combined, there's $130,000 in there right now, and we've talked to both buildings. There's a need to save some of that money for the rest of this school year. But the majority of that money is technically used over the summer months. We buy things between now and the end of the school year, and we line things up, and then they do this work over the summer months. So there's approximately $100,000 that's there that we won't be utilizing, this year. So that's the money that we're moving, and it's coming out of a maintenance type budget. It's not coming out of salaries or anything like that. It's coming out of our maintenance budgets, which is in line with the capital expenses. So that's what we're planning on doing. And it was a fairly good meeting that we had.
It was very good, and the representatives were there. They've actually upgraded the cameras.
Right.
If we get this going now, they will start doing some of the work by June 11th, I think the date was.
Mm-hmm.
And so the goal with them would be to have it all up and running by beginning of school.
Right.
Can you explain the direction, because as far as transferring the money, like it can go one way? Usually it has the A numbers where the funds are
Yeah,
coming from.
these are not,
But then they
there's
can't
no,
go
there's no,
the other way with
yeah,
the
there's no
capital and
contingent and non-contingent budget code items here. Those are equipment items, and none of these,
and we're buying
none of this,
equipment.
none of this
So-
money,
Yeah.
none of this money is in a line item for equipment, and this is gonna be equipment, but it's gonna be capital, it's gonna be a capital expense, because it's.
So
right
it's
around
the
that money.
general fund and it's the
Capital fund.
capital fund, but it's it's equipment for equipment. So it's like an even.
No, it's not. We're pulling money out of the general funds. These line items aren't equipment, and these are not going to be going into an equipment code, because it's gonna be part of the facility. These cameras are gonna be physically attached to the facility. It's not gonna be personal property that can, be picked up and walked away with. So it's gonna be a capital expense physically attached to the building.
And so the contingent or non-contingent doesn't attach to this
Not in
at
my
all?
opinion, it doesn't, no. I mean, it's not going into a 200 level account code. That's a non-contingent account code, the 200 level. So no, it's not going into those.
Okay.
So.
So was this bid on?
Yeah.
By more than one?
We had 3 bids, and that
Okay.
was back in 2014.
I think it was a little later than that, but it was a while ago.
Yeah.
Okay, but there was a, okay.
We had
We had the
actually 3
bid
bids.
changed, we had it revamped when this is before this most recent change.
Yeah.
We had it revamped when the different items changed, I can't remember exactly what it was.
This dollar amount was all, this particular bid was because of the Smart Schools submission. When we had to submit it, we had to have a fixed dollar amount to put into the Smart Schools proposal. We had to have that awarded before, technically thinking that we were going to get that money. So we've been kind of holding this company, we basically, awarded this bid, and we're just dragging our feet, basically.
That brings up another question. If we ever see this Smart Schools funding,
Yeah.
where would that go?
So the way it will work is, so the Smart Schools amount is $247,000. We have resubmitted 3 times, a plan, and always with the security cameras and with devices. So it's about $100,000 for the security cameras, the 140 something for devices. That plan's still been submitted. What we will do, assuming that we cannot use, let's say the Smart Schools were to be approved next week, next month, perhaps we could still use the Smart Schools. I don't really know, depending on the dates of all of these things. But let's say that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
If that doesn't happen, then once the Smart Schools is approved with the security camera piece in, we'll have to file an amendment to the plan. And that amendment will pull the security cameras out. But it won't put something new in. To put something new in, we have to write a whole new plan.
So it wouldn't allow us to reimburse ourselves?
From my understanding, no. But I don't know, there's first of all, there aren't a lot of test cases here, right? So this is all, everyone's figuring it out as you go. But this might be a gray area, between when we, between tonight and then say when the actual installation takes place. So we'll see. I'll keep my fingers crossed that maybe something good would come of that. But in reality, it's more likely that we'll be doing just what Leonard said, and then we'll be down the road, probably months from now, having our Smart Schools plan approved, and then having to file an amendment, and then we'll have to decide what to do with the remaining $100,000 that we have available through Smart Schools, how we want to propose a plan for that. It's very problematic because every time we propose to purchase devices, we are required to, and I've told you guys this before, we're required to dedicate a percentage of that to the non-public schools. And we don't have, we have a problem, but we don't have too much of a problem with the fact that they're going to get some and we'll get the rest. That's not the piece that we're worried about. The piece that we're worried about is that officially that equipment is ours. Officially it goes on loan with non-public schools, and then officially it's our responsibility to maintain it. So what we're doing when we purchase this equipment, this is why we've asked them to accept a reduced amount, which they've wonderfully done. It's because being able to, we don't see ourselves as being able to maintain, to cover the cost to maintain all that equipment. Maintaining equipment over a period of 5 years, equipment that often only has a 3-year lifespan, can be pretty difficult. So we don't want to put ourselves into a whole future unknown cost. So we've already done that, and we'd have to figure out how we would approach the final $100,000, and I really don't know where we'll go with that. So I don't see that $100,000, assuming that we don't get to spend the Smart Schools on this. I don't see that turning over quickly.
Is there, do you have to file so say it comes through in however many months, do you have to file the amendment right away? Or is it something that the district could move forward with every single other project and then leave that for last, and then maybe by then there needs to be an upgrade and then you have the funds?
Just forget about it.
I think we probably would have to do it rather quickly, but I don't really. I have to tell you that's a part of the process that we just haven't gone through yet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like,
Yeah.
what if, you know,
What
we
if is
install
right.
all the cameras
Yeah.
and then 7 are broken, and so then that.
That would probably be, from my understanding of the way this whole process works, or doesn't work at times, that would probably be a new plan.
Yeah.
Like, we probably wouldn't be able to use the old plan and to use part of the old plan to finance a new plan. I think we'd have to rewrite the plan and include that.
All right.
So.
Hence why BOCES need so many administrators.
To keep up with the paperwork.
Motion carries 5-4-0 against. Special education are there questions on the packet to be approved at the next meeting, May 1st meeting? Any questions? All right, and let's move into adjournment. Our next meetings, May 1st, 6:30, Wilmington Community Center, May 8th, 6:30 here in Lake Placid. Any old agenda topics to discuss?
If there's any way to get the article that Teresa referenced as far as a librarian helping a math program, she said it was 2015 and it was some article.
Do you want to send it again?
If there's any way to find that,
Okay.
it'd be nice to link it up, or I'd like to see it, but then also if it can be in our board docs, since it is somehow linking the two.
Superintendent in there for old.
We'll look for that.
Oh, superintendent, yes, thanks. The superintendent evaluation, everybody had a chance to look at that? It's out. I sent it to everybody, and then I sent an follow-up email explaining where it was. It's in the Lake Placid CSD.net account. It's done electronically. What we have found out is that you need to complete it all at once and then send it directly to me, because it doesn't save it. And if you try to do part of it and then come back later, you're going to lose it. So.
And it can't come to my other Gmail account?
No,
because I don't have that. No.
Well, then you
It's
need
never
to
set
talk
up.
with, Joe, because he said that. He said it didn't appear that you would ever use that account, but
No.
he'll set it up for you. So you can just reach out to him.
When does it need to be
At
done?
the
I don't
end of the
have-
month.
That was this morning that I would have. Okay.
27th.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a Google, right?
It's a Google, yes.
Google Doc, yeah. And that's where the security comes in.
Mm-hmm.
I know, it's always asking.
So if you don't.
Volumes of password books out.
Or just.
I won't tell you my secret.
Just talk to
You can
him and
reset
he'll
it.
reset it.
Yes, he can reset it. He reset mine
And
yesterday.
it's a
so-
fairly quick process, yeah. New agenda topics? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Sure.
Thank you. I'll put down all.
You better start speaking
Rick,
up.
is there a second?
That's right.
Yes.
It's
Thank
there.
you, Dan.
Who did the first?
Rick,
Rick.
Ow.
Dan seconded, all in favor? So
Yes.
everybody, 5-4-0 against, and it is the
33.
33 on my computer, you're right. Okay. All right, so thank you all.
I have a what if we didn't approve that BOCES budget? Then what happens?
And all the district, it would have to be a majority.
Just saying.
It would be, probably it would have been us, and in the past, it's been us and Sarah McClay, those two have not passed it. Have not voted for it, and then all the other districts have.
As long as there's a majority.